congratulate and thank the IQAC team of that they have taken to spread their success story. I wish and pray for the Lord's choicest blessings on each and every one of the IQAC team of St. Joseph's College, as well as all the participants who are going to participate in this FDP program. I wish you all the best, and I wish God's choicest blessings once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Father, for your words of blessings. Now, I welcome Dr. A. Rose Venice, Dean, IQAC St. Joseph's College, to address the participants about the dynamics of the faculty development program.
Respected Reverend Fathers, Reverend Sisters, resource persons, my beloved IQAC team of St. Joseph's College, and professors, participants from various colleges, on behalf of St. Joseph's College, Trichy, I welcome you all for this 5-day FDP on inclusive procedures and processes in assessment and accreditation by NAAC. I am glad to inform you that we have 660 participants from 120 institutions from all over the country, which is an indication that the higher education institutions are bent upon undergoing training that will enable them to build a better society in general and educational institutions in particular. The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet, said Aristotle. Similarly, NAAC accreditation process may be tedious, boring, and more clerical for higher education institutions, but the fruit of process is rewarding. NAAC score reflects the quality of higher education institutions and the service rendered to its stakeholders. Obtaining a good score demands hard work on the part of management, staff, and students. For its imparting quality education. The college was awarded with special heritage status by the UGC and the first autonomous arts and science college to score 3.58 with A++ grade in the 4th cycle under the new NAAC RAF. With our own rich experience and with the help of renowned resource persons from different institutions, we assure you that this FDP will assist all the NAAC aspiring higher education institutions and higher education institutions entering into next cycles of accreditation to gain a broader understanding about the NAAC process based on the new NAAC manual published during this year. Aim of this FDP is to familiarize you all in the various aspects of NAAC, like need of accreditation and quality enhancement, curriculum design and delivery, institutional distinctiveness, research and innovation, student support, preparation of SSR and data compilation and DVV process, responsibilities of higher education institutions, expectations of NAAC, and facing the peer team. We make an appeal to you all that please take it an active part in the proceedings of this workshop. Stay connected and enjoy all the sessions and get enlightened. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for highlighting the significance of this online faculty development program. Dear participants, we'll be moving into the technical sessions. I request participants to keep your audio and video muted. Session 1 on NAAC and quality assurance will be handled by Reverend Father Arokesami Xavier SJ, Principal St. Joseph's College, Tiruchirappalli. Reverend Dr. M. Arokesami Xavier SJ, Principal St. Joseph's College, Tiruchirappalli, is an academician and administrator par excellence. As part of academic visits, he has visited 14 foreign countries such as the United States of America, France, Germany, Thailand, and so on. He has authored 11 books. He is also the chief editor of Indian Historical Studies, a research journal published by the Department of History, St. Joseph's College. He has assessed various colleges as an assessor in peer team of NAAC. He is a joint secretary of National Executive Committee, Xavier Board of Catholic Higher Education Institutions. He is also the president of Tamil Nadu Region, Xavier Board of Catholic Higher Educations. SJC is proud of the fact that under his dynamic leadership, the institution was awarded with the highest recognition by NAAC, the A++ grade, which added another precious gem in the ever-glowing crown of St. Joseph's College. Father, we welcome you for the first session.
Yeah. Thank you. Dear Reverend Father Secretary, esteemed resource person, Professor Dr. Joseph Dorairaj, former Vice Chancellor, in charge, Gandhigram University, and Assessor NAAC, beloved participants, dear principals and IQAC coordinators of various colleges, faculty members of our IQAC team, dear professors and learned professors and participants, pleasant morning to you all. Welcome, dear participants, to this age-old temple of high learning, which completed its 176 years of educational excellence. In this lockdown season, all the higher education institutions are engaging themselves in sharing their academic expertise and research experiences through webinars. Our college has so far conducted more than 40 such online programs. As a premier institution, worked in the revised accredited framework, our experienced IQAC, both former and the present, wish to share their experiences, their expertise and wisdom with all the institutions to enable them to gain knowledge of the untold stories in the NAAC revised manual. The resource persons carefully chosen are either experienced NAAC assessors or persons who have enough knowledge and wisdom in understanding the manual and working experience. Moreover, the themes chosen are not criterion based, as you all know. Rather, they are chosen based on the importance of cross-referencing and weightage. Hence, this 5-day FDP organized by the IQAC of St. Joseph's College, Tiruchirappalli, will not only be an eye-opener for gray and hidden areas in the manual, but also a guiding light to reach the pinnacle in scoring high in the challenging exercise. I would like to thank sincerely the resource persons who have accepted to deliver lectures on important themes. I'm sure their presentation and sharing will enlighten you very much and will help your institutions to attain greater heights in the accreditation process. It is my duty to appreciate the present and former IQAC of our college for organizing this FDP in a meaningful way. They have taken a lot of efforts to make this FDP a meaningful one. I'm very happy with the overwhelming response from the colleges across the country to this FDP program. This shows that the higher educational institutions in India realize the importance of accreditation. my dear learned professors and participants, I would like to have my sharing on 4 aspects. First is, I would like to give you a basic information about NAAC. Secondly, I also would like to talk on certain aspects of quality assurance. Thirdly, some core elements to achieve quality assurance. And of course, I would like to end my sharing with my personal experiences as NAAC assessor. So I would like to sincerely thank this team, which has done so much work for this FDP. I sincerely thank them. You can also appreciate them later. Dear participants, as you all know, you have a number of international accrediting and ranking agencies for higher education institutions. You see, these are the institutions which you have got, and agencies. UK and the Germany, Belgium, number of institutions are there. These are some of the agencies you see. The last one is QS. QS is not an accrediting agency, but it is a ranking agency like our NARF. So you also have the private ranking agencies in India. You know, these agencies like India Today, Educational World, The Week, and so many other agencies are there which rank educational institutions. They are not accrediting agencies. Please remember that. Now, coming to the India, the official ranking institution is this: National Institutional Ranking Framework, that is NIRF. This comes under or works under the MHRD, and you would have seen just 15-20 days ago the ranking for this year 2020. And I would like to just to once again congratulate the Tamil Nadu colleges. 32 colleges came under the top 100 institutions in the NARF ranking 2020. And also I would like to announce, just to inform you once again, refresh your memory. Among 100 top ranking colleges, 80 top colleges are from Delhi, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. We are proud of these colleges. Now, government accrediting agencies in India. There are 2 agencies. One is NBA. This NBA is Program Accrediting Agency. So they are accrediting programs like technical and engineering colleges. Second one is NAAC. As you know, NAAC is the Institutional Accrediting Agency, which has been functioning from 1994. And I also would like to tell you that it is an autonomous body of the UGC. You know, the motto of NAAC is excellence, credibility, relevance. The mission is to assure quality. So quality assurance is an integral part of the higher education institutions. Transparency in quality assessment is very, very important. It is there with the NAAC. Now, the expectations of NAAC is quite high from cycle to cycle. In the first cycle, you have quality awareness. Second cycle is quality attainment. Third cycle is quality sustenance. Fourth cycle is quality enhancement, that we should become aware of these facts, and most of you would be aware of these developments and these facts. Now here I would like to mention one point. They are assessing only for that particular period, assessment period, that we should be careful about this fact. Now, what is accreditation? You know. Now, accreditation is based on an assessment. So, the NAAC assesses the self-study report of our institution, based on the parameters which are mentioned there in the manual and uploaded by us, by the institution, in the format given by the NAAC. And you see, just till the recent date, these are the developments, or these are the ranks which the institutions have got. It is there in the NAAC website. Totally 100,570 institutions are accredited, and of all these institutions, only 14 institutions got or are awarded with A++ for their performance, which means the quality is very, very important. So we have to assure the quality. And if you see all the details, you have the A+, so many institutions you can see from our website. Now, quality assurance, what does it mean? For us, for me, the very act of assuring quality is to be embedded in the thought process, because quality assurance is not an end product, but it is an ongoing process. It's a culture and way of life wherein all the segments of the institutions are actively involved. So 3 aspects are there. One is not an end product, it's an ongoing process, or another way, it's a culture or way of life. And third point is very, very important. All the institutions are, all the units of the institution are actively involved in this process. Now, what are the main areas? You know the main areas. Just I have mentioned few. It is there. And ultimately, it is an unending process and a struggle. In the process, everybody participates. I have 1 or 2 quotations here. Just I would like to mention one quotation by Aristotle. Quality is not an act, it is a habit. We have to remember that. So then only you'll be able to achieve the grade or rank which we desire. And quality is pride of workmanship. So that also we have to understand. Now, how to ensure quality? So there are 7 steps or 7 important aspects mentioned here. One is interiorizing the vision and mission of the institution. So vision and mission are set by us, designed by the institution itself, and we have to interiorize, starting from the top management till the workers or co-workers or service staff. So they have to interiorize the vision and mission. Secondly, understanding the institution's integral growth in all parameters, aspects, programs, dynamics, structure, etc. So these are another second point. Third point is translating them through proper strategies with institutional core values. Fourth point is performing well in every parameter continuously. Remember, I would like to insist this point. Every parameter or every criterion. Okay. Some institutions will perform or would perform in some parameters or criterion, but not all. So this we have to take into consideration, and we have to give weightage to this point. Fourth, very important point is documenting the growth systematically with evidences. So this is what now they want. If you don't have evidences, you cannot document. Now, after documenting all the growth, the presentation is very, very important. Presenting everything in the SSR properly, that is very, very important. Lastly, articulating them effectively in the manual, not only in the manual, but also during the visit. When the peer team comes, how do you present them or articulating them? That is very, very important. Of course, accreditation process is a tedious but robust process, but in my opinion, it is an objective process. Now, these are the important core elements for quality assurance. This is my important slide. Just you look at this slide, you will understand These are the important core elements which you have to know and put in practice when you go for accreditation. Starting from first, strong vision and mission for the institution, you know. Second, visionary and dynamic leadership, particularly the administrators and officials. So that is very, very important. Third one is proactive and supportive management. You should have proactive management, which would help you in this process. Fourth one is good performance in all parameters, as I mentioned. Fifth one is very, very important, a dedicated IQAC core team, because they only document all the growth with evidences, Sixth one is committed faculty and staff members. Seventh, good academic and administrative systems in place. So this, the NAAC expects us very much to have. So every institution, if it's a higher education institution, if it would like to get good grade or good rank, it should have good systems in place in their units, in their education institutions. Now, eighth one is regular documentation and digitization. This is 8th point. Ninth one is, of course, it's very, very important, adequate infrastructure facilities to enhance our performance. In all aspects, whether it is physical lab, science labs, or computer labs, or the field games field, or all the classrooms, in all aspects, we should have adequate infrastructure facilities. 10th one is integral formation of students. This is very, very important. So all our institutions are aiming at providing integral formation. This we have to take into consideration. It is very, very important aspect. Now, 11th point is values such as social inclusion and ecological sensitivity. This is also to be taken into confidence, and we have to give importance to this aspect. 12th point, strong alumni engagement. So these are some of the aspects, some of the core elements. Of course, number of elements are there. I have not included everything. So these are core and important elements for quality assurance. We have to keep these core elements in mind when you go for accreditation process. Now, what have we learned from our accreditation and assessment exercise? From our exercise, we went to assessment and accreditation last year. So these are some of the aspects which I understand, which we learned as college or the IQAC team, or as a higher education institution we learned. We understood our institution's standard and position better. That is first point. Secondly, we got clarity in understanding of our functioning and our mission of empowering students. I'll come to this point, our mission of empowering students. Next slide, we'll understand better. So this we understood better when we went for accreditation process. So we were aware of our SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. So all these points we came to aware of these facts. And role of internal quality assurance system also we learned. Now, last one is realization of the need for systematic documentation with evidences and digitization process. So this is very, very important aspect which we as a higher education institution, we learned from this process. Now, as I we learned the empowering through students' quality education, we are providing an integral formation to our students. Starting from first, just in the core aspect is there. You have a lot of many many aspects are there. I'm not going to explain all those things. You can take it later. And discipline. Third one is academic requirements. Fourth one is participation, extension club and clubs. Fifth one is developing skills. So number of skills are there. The technical skills are there. Language skills are there. Value-added courses. We teach some skills, soft skill and life skills. All those things are there. Fine. Now, next one is participating in extracurricular activities. Like your institutions, we also have number of extracurricular activities. Just I have mentioned a few. Of course, other things are there. I'm not able to make them because of the space. And last one is enhancing research temperament, even in the minds of the UG students. That is very, very important aspect which we instilled among our students. So this is the one of the aspect I would like to mention to you. We also learned how we interact with our stakeholders. So this is one of the just chart I would like to tell you, diagram I would like to give you. So the management interacts with all the segments, all the stakeholders, like students, faculty, parents, other higher education institutions, alumni, and industry and partners. This side, government and other agencies like UGC, NAAC. So this is how we interact with our stakeholders, like you, like all your institutions. You also do the same. We also interact with them. Just I have envisaged like this. Next to the management and administration, students interact with most of the stakeholders. And of course, like this, you can just look at that this diagram, you'll understand better. You also would have understood maybe in a better way. This is how I understand as an assessor, not only as an assessor, also as the principal of this college, which went for the accreditation process and got the highest rank in the NAAC. Now, what are the immediate gains that we got? So these are some of the gains I've just highlighted. First, recognition for our commitment, hard work, okay. Second one is greater visibility to our college at the local and national level. Even this, India Today has mentioned our college name in page number 56. You can just refer. Third point, increase in the perception level among the public. Fourth point, clarity on the administrative structures, roles and functions. Of course, all those things are there. And next again, realization of the potential of our team. So our team is really very potential, and I could realize that one. And sense of pride about our achievements in all areas, academic, research, extension, curricular, extracurricular. Next one is, I understood the organogram of the institution better when we went for the accreditation process. The next one is better clarity on the policies and practices of the college. So it is very good time to understand these things. Next one is possibility for better consultancy. That also is an immediate gain which we gain. Now, what are the long-term gains that we are aiming at? So first one is setting benchmark to other institutions. Second one is possibility to offer our services to international community with the advent of technology, all those things. Now, many students from other countries started inquiring about our college, so they may come to our college for their studies. Now, opening for newer fields in education to our students. Now, this year, we are going to start MSc Data Science, MA Counseling and Psychology, BCom Honors. So all these newer fields we are exploring. So this is an opportunity, a very good time for us to explore these possibilities. Of course, we also will get financial gain by funding from government and other private agencies, because they seek objective data, not only from us, also from the objective agency like the NIRF or like the NAAC. Now, stronger tie-ups with industries and premier institutions, of course, we are hoping for that. High-performing institutions can become agents to frame policies and influence decision-making bodies on many issues. This also could be one of the long-term gains or long-term benefits which our institutions would get. Now, my experience, when I went as a peer team member to other institutions, of course, they are very enthusiastic, working hard, ready to improve their quality. All those things are there. Some of the difficulties they face, of course, later in other sessions, our professors will deal, our learned resource persons will deal all these things. I would like to highlight one or two. They find it difficult to comprehend the questions asked in the new NAAC manual. That is one point. That is very, very important. Secondly, performance in all parameters, all criteria. That is second point. So all those things are there. So you will have a lot of time to time during this FDP program. And my dear learned participants, I also would like to tell you one thing. Assessors normally try to be objective, and also we have to keep this in mind. The NAAC visit is only for 30%. The weightage is only for 30%. Yeah. Now, as concluding remark, quality is a culture, a way of life, wherein all the segments of the institutions are actively involved. I would like to conclude with this saying, it's an unending process and a struggle. Of course, all of us would like to do this, get good rank, and we are aiming at quality. I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father, for your very valid session. It was really enriching and useful. I really believe that the participants and all the stakeholders of this webinar will be worth using it. We'll straight away move on to the second session. Before that, I would like to give certain instructions, kind instructions to the participants. You may allow to take part in the interaction after the session gets over by using raise hand methods. Once again, I repeat, the participants are asked to interact with the resource person after the session is over. Now, I would like to introduce the resource person for the session 2, Professor Joseph Durarajan. It is a great honor to introduce our resource person for this session titled Benchmark in Higher Education, for which we have Professor Joseph Duraraj, the Dean, School of English and Foreign Languages, Gandhigram Rural University, Gandhigram, Tamil Nadu. Sir was a Fulbrighter in 2014, has made visits to premier educational institutions in Washington, D.C., New York, Miami, Belgium during the year 2015. He has conducted a month-long teacher training program in Kandy, Sri Lanka during August 2007. He has also visited Gregorian University at Rome, Netherlands, and Paris. Professor Duraraj has published 55 articles and has authored 4 books, namely Myth and Literature in 2006, Interventions, Essay in Philosophy and Literary Theory in 2011, Philosophical Hermeneutics in 2015, Frequently Asked Questions on Research Literature in 2009. He was a visiting professor of philosophy at Satyanilayam, an institution affiliated to Madras University, and a visiting professor of English at Osmania University in 2016. He is a founder editor of Gandhigram Literal Review. Sir is featuring as an NAAC assessor since 2010 and was involved in the preparation of NAAC revised methodology. So far, he has visited 31 colleges and universities and has been chairperson for NAAC peer teams on 13 occasions. We really deem it a privilege and honor to have you, sir. I invite you to take on your session.
Thank you. Can I share my screen? Dr. Venice, shall I start?
Yes, sir. Please continue, sir.
I'm not visible on the screen. Am I visible on the screen?
Yes, sir. You're visible on the screen, sir. Please.
Okay, but I am unable to see myself.
Sir, it is visible, sir. Your screen is visible, sir.
Okay, fine. Reverend Dr. Peter Xavier, Secretary of St. Joseph's College. Reverend Dr. M. Arokyasamy Xavier, the Dynamic Principal of St. Joseph's College, Trichy, the host institution. Dr. Rose Venice, the Dean of the IQAC of St. Joseph's College. Dr. Khurshid, the Assistant Dean, IQAC of St. Joseph's College, Trichy. Dr. S. Alfred Cecil Raj, the former Dean of the IQAC St. Joseph's College. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. At the outset, I would like to thank the Principal of St. Joseph's College, Reverend Dr. Arokyasamy, and also the organizing team for having extended me this invitation to take part in this 5-day FTP, and also for giving me this slot on benchmarking in higher education. So dear friends, now it is 10:20. So I have been asked to speak for 45 minutes, and the title of my presentation is Benchmarking in Higher Education. And I have divided my presentation into 4 units. What are the 4 units? I will let you know shortly. And after I make the presentation, I'll be happy to take a few questions. So dear friends, may I invite your attention to my first slide. As I said a little earlier, I have divided my presentation into 4 units. In the first unit, I'll be talking on 3 ideas. What is benchmarking and what are the different types of benchmarking? And I will also be addressing the question as to why benchmarking is essential. Now, in the second part of my presentation, I'll be highlighting the link or the association between benchmarking on the one hand and best practices on the other. And I'll be also talking of benchmarking with reference to higher education. Now, in the third part of my presentation, I'll be talking about what do the A+ and the A++ institutions possess. What is there in these institutions that they have achieved a ranking of A+, or A++. I will also be talking about, as an institution or as a department, what benchmarks can you set for yourself. And lastly, I'll be talking about the role of the IQAC in setting benchmarks And I will also very briefly talk about, I will be talking about 3 limitations of benchmarking. So this is more to my presentation. Now the first 2 slides will talk about what is benchmarking. Now the first 2 slides, they talk about benchmarking. Now the word benchmarking itself has 2 meanings or 2 connotations. We can look at it from a literal point of view, that is etymologically, and we can also look at it in an applied sense, that is figuratively or metaphorically. I am sure among you there are some social science professors, particularly those who are teaching geography or geology. So if you go into the root word of benchmark or benchmarking, we know that it was originally used by geographers and geologists to talk about reference points, and this is the original meaning of the term benchmarking. Now, if you look at the history of the term benchmarking, all of us know towards the late 1970s in the United States of America, there was a war between the Xerox Corporation, the American industry Xerox Corporation on the one hand, and the Japanese corporation Canon, and the competition or the rivalry was with regard to photocopiers. So Xerox company and American venture, they were doing well. But once the Japanese company arrived on the American shores, they took over and they pushed the Xerox Corporation to the second position or to the second spot. Against this backdrop, the American company Xerox Corporation, they wanted to do benchmarking because their idea was to regain the market. So if you look at the origin of the term benchmarking, particularly with reference to industry, we realize that the term benchmarking, particularly with reference to higher education. Now, if I can put it in one word, benchmarking with reference to higher education would mean standards or references or a frame of reference. Now, please come down the slide. I have 2 quotations. Now, if you go to the NAAC manual, particularly the glossary, you come across this definition of benchmarking. And this is how the definition of benchmarking according to the NAAC manual reads. Now, NAAC would define benchmarking as an example of good performance that serves as a standard, yardstick, reference point for comparison of one's performance. It is a technique in which an institution, could be a college, could be a university, could be an autonomous college, could be an affiliated college or a constituent college, measures its performance against the best of others. So which means in the first sentence, NAAC makes it very clear. It is a standard, it is a measure, it is a yardstick, it is a frame of reference. And what do you do with this frame of reference? What do you do with this example? What do you do with this paradigm? What do you do with this model? You use it to measure your own performance against the best in that particular field. So this is a very important quotation from NAAC, wherein we get to know the meaning of benchmarking and also as to why benchmarking is used, particularly in the field of higher education. Now, there is one more quotation talking about what benchmarking is, and this quotation reads like this: benchmarking is a structured process for learning from the practice of others. Those better than others, and this could be done internally and home legitimate comparisons done is, I have tried to highlight the meaning of the word benchmark or the benchmarking, where it is used as a standard or a reference or a paradigm or a frame of reference using which you find out where you stand in comparison to the best in the field. Now, please take a look at this slide. Now, particularly from a management point of view, they talk about 9 different kinds of benchmarking. But all of us know that we are not in the management sector, we are in the domain of higher education. So therefore, there is no need for us to talk about all the types of benchmarking. Now, I would like to highlight, when I talk about the different types of benchmarking, I would like to highlight the first 2, namely internal benchmarking and external benchmarking. And please go to the last. There is another category of benchmarking that is called best-in-class benchmarking. Of course, we do have the third point, process benchmarking, and the fourth one, performance benchmarking. But my focus would be on the first 2 and the last, namely, what is internal benchmarking, what is external benchmarking, and what do we mean, or what do we refer to as the best-in-class benchmarking. So what do we mean? The first question, what do we mean by internal benchmarking? Now, within a college, one particular department may be doing much better than the others. So that would be internal benchmarking. Maybe the principal of that institution or the director of the IQAC may set that department as the model or as the paradigm or as the benchmark for other departments, namely the Department of History or the Department of Economics or the Department of Life Sciences or the Department of English, to follow and emulate that particular department. So this is internal. And I'm sure in all institutions, we have 1 or 2 well-performing institutions, or well-performing department or a better performing department. So that will serve as the model for that particular institution. And this is referred to as internal benchmarking. Now, there is another type of benchmarking, which is the most essential one or the most important one, and that is external benchmarking. Now, for instance, in Trichy, which is the best college, so you compare your own institution with that college, or within Bharatidasan University, or within Madurai Kamaraj University, or within Calcutta University, or within Delhi University, which is the best performing institution. You take that as the exemplar or model, and you try to compare your own performance with that particular institution, which is supposed to be the best as far as the university jurisdiction is concerned. So, ladies and gentlemen, as far as higher education is concerned, we need to worry about these 2 types of benchmarking, namely the internal benchmarking and the external benchmarking. And we also need to educate ourselves regarding the best-in-class benchmarking. BM stands for benchmarking. So what is the best-in-class? Okay, as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, this is the best institution. As far as Maharashtra is concerned, this is the best institution. As far as Odisha is concerned, this is the best institution. So what you do is, you try to measure yourself up against the best institution in that state or that university. So that would be the best-in-class benchmarking. Now we need to answer this question. Why should we talk about benchmarking? What is the need or what is the necessity to talk about benchmarking? So therefore the question is, why benchmarking? Why should a college or why should a department or why should a university? Or to extend the question, why should a company or why should an industry talk about benchmarking? Now there are 3 answers. Now, internally, what are the reasons? Externally, what are the reasons as to why an institution should go for benchmarking? And ultimately, finally, like what are the major reasons as to why an institution should take a benchmarking? Now, internally, earlier we talked about 2 types of benchmarking, namely internal benchmarking and external benchmarking. I would like to continue the argument. So internally, only when you do the benchmark within your own college, within your own institution, either the principal or the secretary or the IQAC team will find out which departments are doing well and which departments are not doing well. So internally, benchmarking is an exercise that helps you to find out which are the departments or which are the units which are doing well, which are above average, which are in the good category or in the very good category, and which are the departments which are average or below average or mediocre, and therefore they need to pull up their socks. So from that perspective, internally, benchmarking helps. Now, externally, that particular college stands with reference to the best institutions. Now, what do we mean by best institutions? Those institutions that in NAAC assessment and accreditation have got A+ or A++ or in the NARF category, maybe the top 25 ranks or the top 10 ranks. So these are the best institutions. So externally, benchmarking helps you to find out as an institution where you stand with reference to the best in that category. And why do you do this? So that you can improve your own performance and grading. Okay, so I have answered the question, why is benchmarking essential? Internally, what are the reasons, and externally, what are the reasons? So ultimately, benchmarking is important or essential for improving quality in terms of teaching and learning, in terms of research, and going by the criteria in terms of infrastructure, the fourth criterion, student support and progression, the fifth criterion, and distinctiveness, the last criterion, so that students and ultimately the society benefit from benchmarking. So please take a look at this slide. Now there are 6 important questions. There are 6 crucial questions that an institution needs to answer when that particular institution undertakes the process of benchmarking. So what are the 6 important questions an institution should address when it submits itself to the task of benchmarking itself, particularly from an external point of view with an external agency or an external institution? Now you take the best. Best, as I said earlier, would mean A+ or A++, or the top 25 or the top 10 ranking in the NARF. So where do I stand compared to the best colleges? Okay, so this is the best college. When I compare myself with the best college, with the best institution, what is my position? What is my ranking? What is my NAAC score? Where do I stand? Okay, once you ascertain where you stand, when you compare yourself with the best in the field or best in the domain, now the next question is, where do I want to go? What position do I want to reach? What rank do I want to secure? So once you know where you stand, the second question is, the next question is logically, where do you want to go? Okay, so now you have set a destination for yourself. You have set a goal for yourself. So what is that destination? What is that goal? So that will be taken care of by the third question. Who is the exemplar? Who is the model? Who is the paradigm? Okay, so normally the paradigm would be you would like to compare yourself or you would like to imitate or follow not an average institution, not a mediocre institution, but an institution like St. Joseph's or like St. Xavier's or like Ferguson or St. Stephen's or Lady Shri Ram. Why do I refer to these institutions? Because they are considered the best in the country, A++ institution. Okay, so which means now you have set your target clear. You know where you stand and you also realize where you want to go. Now, what is the path? How do you achieve? Okay, please go to the fourth question. Now you ask yourself, you try to find out how did St. Joseph's, for instance, or how did Ferguson College in Pune, or how did Lady Shri Ram College in Delhi achieve this distinction? Okay, when I talk about this distinction, it means A++ with reference to NAAC assessment and accreditation, or the top 10 with reference to NARF. And what are the best practices? Later, I will be talking about the intimate connection between best practices and benchmarking. And the last 2 questions would be how and to what extent can they adapt, can they follow, can they emulate their best practices to improve my own performance. So which means St. Joseph's has reached this position because with reference to each of the 7 criteria, they have best practices. With regard to administration, they have some best practices. With regard to teaching, they have best practices. With regard to extension and outreach activities, they have best practices. So it is because of these best practices in every criterion, they have achieved this A++ position. So which means what are the best practices that I can borrow, that I can adapt from St. Joseph's College? And last question is, when I try to imitate the model of St. Joseph's College, or when I try to follow the example of St. Stephen's College, Delhi, what are the challenges that I'm like, that I would most probably face, and how can I overcome them? So dear friends, that marks the end of my first presentation. Sorry, the first part of my presentation. So in the first part of my presentation, I have answered 4 questions. What is benchmarking, particularly from a geographical and a geological point of view, and also from an application-oriented point of view. Then I have talked about different types of benchmarking, and I have also answered 2 questions. Why is benchmarking essential? And what are the questions, the 6 crucial questions you need to ask yourself when you undertake the exercise of benchmarking? Now let me move on to the second part of my presentation. I would be talking about the connection or the association between benchmarking on the one hand and best practices on the other. Now, in my previous slide, I made it very clear. St. Joseph's has got A++, or Lady Shri Ram has got the second rank in the NARF, or Miranda houses with reference to NARF. It is because of the best practices. It is because of the educational best practices. It is because of the research best practices. It is because of their administrative best practices. It is because of their extension best practices. So which means there is an intimate, there is a very close connection between best practices on the one hand and benchmarking on the other. In other words, best practices lead to best performance. And once you perform very well, you can be assured of a very good rank. So that is the logical connection between best practices, best performance, and the outcome, namely a very high ranking, either with reference to NAAC or with reference to NARF. So therefore here, I would like to talk about the connection between benchmarking on the one hand and best practices on the other. Now look at the first bullet. It talks of how benchmarking involves searching for the best practices of the leaders in the field, like St. Stephen's, like St. Joseph's, like St. Xavier's Palenkote, because they are the leaders, they are the paradigms, they are the models, and we need to adapt their best practices so that we can improve our own ranking. Now, very briefly, what are best practices? Now, in this connection, I would like to refer to a manual that was brought out by NAAC maybe some 10-15 years ago, and it was edited by the then director of NAAC, Professor Prasad, and Dr. Anthony Stella. You please read the first chapter. It is a joint essay by Dr. Prasad and Dr. Stella, where they have talked about best practices. Okay, so there is one more slide on best practices. So here, best practices. So what are best practices? How do we define best practices? So in practical terms or in pragmatic terms, best practices are those practices which have resulted in or which have produced very good results. Now, what do we mean by very good results? A+ or A++ or the top 10 ranks in the NARF or the top 10 institutions according to India Today ranking, which was released a couple of days ago. So this is what we mean by superior results. And please take note of the sentence. Best practices invariably lead to best performance before they serve as benchmark. And here is a quotation taken from CAMP. The title of the book is Business Process Benchmarking, which was published in 1995. So Bench would tell us benchmarking's real benefit comes from understanding the practices that permit the performance and the recent transfer of best performance to the organization. So this slide makes it very clear. 2 ideas. Number one, there is a very close link between best practices and benchmarking. How or why? Because it is because of the best practices with reference to each of the 7 criteria that the A+ or the A++ institutions have achieved that result or that ranking. Now, please look at this slide. The first point, I have borrowed it from the NAAC manual. I have already referred to the book edited by Dr. Prasad and Dr. Stella. So when we talk of best practices, they say we have to take into account 4 key ideas: identification of best practices, sustainability of best practices, dissemination of best practices, and adaptation of best practices. So in other words, each department at the micro level and the college as such at the macro level, they need to find out what are their best practices. So you need to have a brainstorming, or maybe you can have group meetings, or you can invite an external agency to study the institution and find out what are the best practices with regard to each of the 7 criteria. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now if you look at the new manual, best practices comes in the last criterion, where you talk of the best practices and the institutional distinctiveness. But 10 years ago, if you look at the NAAC manual, under every criterion, under all the 7 criteria, you had best practices. So for curricular aspects, what are the best practices? For teaching and research, what are the best practices? For infrastructure, what are the best practices? So for every criterion, you need to spell out, or you need to articulate your best practices. So therefore, the first point is you need to identify what your best practices are. And once you have identified, because they are best practices, they need to be continued. Maybe there are difficulties, maybe there are challenges, but we have to find out ways and means to continue your best practices. So therefore, the second point talks of how to sustain your best practices, and the work, you should be able to tell the other institutions within the district or within the university jurisdiction or within the state, look at us, these are our best practices, and it is because of these practices that we have got A+ or A++. So dissemination of best practices. And for other institutions, they should know how to imitate or how to emulate or how to adapt. Not totally, adapt, taking the local context into consideration. Okay, fine. Now, the remaining part of the slide, it talks about 2 key ideas. Now, if you listen to the principal's presentation, Dr. Arokezami Xavier, he talked about quality. He made a very good presentation, and he said, quality is ensured only when you interiorize it. Okay, so he used the word interiorize. I would like to use the word internalize. So best practices need to be, number 1, institutionalized, and number 2, internalize for sustainability. What is the meaning of internalizing? Dr. Arokezami Xavier, he used the word interiorizing or personalizing. It becomes part of your system. So quality becomes part of your system. You needn't think about quality. What you do, everything becomes an indication or an index of the quality that is there in you. So look at the first point. Best practices need to be institutionalized. What is the meaning of institutionalizing? It should be made an integral part or a vital part of the institution. It should be a part of the college ethos. So that is the meaning of institutionalizing and internalizing. Now, benchmarking in higher education, I have 2 slides on this. Okay, I'll quickly go through this. I'll go to the 3rd bullet. Now, benchmarking these days is used in the domain of tertiary education or higher education. As I told you, we have to talk of benchmarking and we have to talk of best practices with reference to each of the 7 criteria. So therefore, benchmarking is used in higher education to compare and evaluate, number 1, curricular frameworks. Number 2, learning outcomes. When you talk of learning outcomes, it could be subject specific or subject oriented. Learning outcomes with reference to mathematics, learning outcomes with reference to economics, learning outcomes with reference to history, or it could be generic learning outcomes as far as higher education in general is concerned. So learning environment, quality of research, infrastructure, student support and progression, governance, social consciousness. In other words, benchmarking today is a much talked about term and a much talked about exercise in the domain of higher education. Now, since this seminar revolves around the 7 criteria of NAAC, we need to talk of benchmarking with reference to each of the 7 criteria so that our performance improves. And once our performance improves, automatically and logically, we would be assured of either an A or an A+, or if you do exceedingly well, like St. Joseph's or like Miranda House or like St. Stephen's, we would be assured of a double plus. Okay. So in other words, through benchmarks, a higher educational institution benefits from the experience of another higher educational institution. HEI stands for Higher Education Institution. It could be a college, it could be a university. And please go to the third bullet. Benchmarking provides models of high performing as well as rapidly improving colleges or universities as models to others who may not possess access to such models in a local education system. So ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of the second part of my presentation. Now in the second part of my presentation, I have highlighted 2 key ideas. Now the first idea was what are best practices and what is the link or what is the association between best practices on the one hand and benchmarking on the other. And I have clarified it, and I have clarified it abundantly that best practices lead to a very good performance resulting in A+ or A++ or the top 10 NARF ranking. And I have also talked about the last 2 slides, benchmarking with reference to higher education. Now you're already familiar with the NAAC 7 criteria, and I'm sure you're already familiar with this on the basis of, as we all know, 7 criteria, key indicators, and there is a slight difference with regard to the number of key indicators, whereas it is 34 for universities and colleges. It is a little less with reference to affiliated and constituent colleges. So we have criteria, we have key indicators, and we have qualitative metrics, and metrics are divided into qualitative on the one hand and quantitative other. So you're familiar with this. Now we go to the answers to institutions in the world. I'm not talking of India alone. I'm not talking of NARF, or I'm not talking of NAAC. At the international level, at the global level, which are the best institutions? Now we are not interested in the names. Okay, our focus is what do these institutions possess that they have been rated the best as far as higher education is concerned in the whole world. Okay, so what is it that we can learn from these institutions? So ultimately, the point that I would like to highlight is this. Okay, I am from this college, I am from this university. What is it that I can learn from these institutions? Okay. Now, if you go to the United States of America, we have these Ivy League institutions. I'll be talking very briefly about these Ivy League institutions. Now, there are 8 Ivy League institutions in North America. These are not state-funded universities. These are not public universities. These are private universities, and they are located along the northeastern coast of the United States of America. And the headquarters is Princeton. And everybody in higher education would refer to these Ivy League institutions like Brown University or Princeton University or Harvard University or Yale University or Stanford University. So they are 8 in number, and by any standard, when I say any standard, whether it is Times Higher Education ranking or QS ranking or Shanghai ranking, any ranking for that matter, they would invariably figure in the top 5, the top 10, or the top 15. In other words, they are considered the best. Now, the question is, what is it that we can learn from these institutions? Or to reframe the question, how did these Ivy League institutions achieve or attain the best in the field ranking? Okay. Now, there are 5 important points. You look at the staff of these Ivy League institutions, or you look at the alumni of these Ivy League institutions, you would find that a large number of them have won the Nobel Prize. So the Nobel Prize winners, I'll give you some interesting statistics. You go to Harvard, there are 116 Nobel Prize winners. Cambridge, of course, is not an Ivy League institution. So Cambridge has 120 Nobel Prize winners. MIT has 97. Our own Indian Dr. Abhijit Banerjee teaches at MIT with his wife, who is also a Nobel Prize winner in economics. Columbia has 96 Nobel Prize winners. Stanford 83. So the number goes on. So which means the quality of the staff is exceedingly high, and that is why they have won the Nobel Prize. Then diversity. What do we mean by diversity? Diversity means, by any standard, you look at all these 8 Ivy League institutions, more than 20% of the staff and more than 20% of the students are from other countries, because this is one of the important questions in NAAC. Now you look at your own student community or student population or the staff strength, how many of them have come from other states, from other countries? So most institutions would, sorry to say, most institutions would score a 0. Whereas if you look at these Ivy League institutions, they are very rich in diversity. And when it comes to their research publications, if you look at the impact factor or H index, it is something exceedingly good. And they are not only good in academics, these Ivy League institutions, they are very good in terms of sports and games and athletics. And the last point, as I said earlier, these Ivy League institutions, they are not government funded, they are not public universities, they are private universities. So how do they run the institution? Okay, largely because of the generous endowments from the alumni. I'm sure we can learn something from these Ivy League institutions. Now, forget about the Ivy League institutions. Now you look at our own country, you look at India, okay? The principal, Dr. Arakizami Xavier, made it very clear. So we have A plus, and we have A++. And he also made it very clear that so far only 14 institutions in the entire country have achieved this A++ ranking, and St. Joseph's College is one of them. And my hearty congratulations to the principals and the IQAC team. So now the question is, what is there in St. Joseph's that they have got this A++? What is there in Ferguson College, Pune, that they have got a very good ranking? What is there in Lady Sri Ram College that they have got this high ranking? What is there in St. Xavier's College, Palenkote, that they have got A++? Okay, so I have 15 points. I will go through these 15 points. Now you look at Loyola, or you look at St. Stephen's, or you look at St. Xavier's Bombay, or you look at St. Xavier's Calcutta. The first thing that catches your attention is when you mix with the students, the diversity and inclusivity that you find not only among students but also among the faculty. Now you go to Loyola. I've interacted with the staff of the Loyola College, or you go to St. Joseph College, Trichy, or you go to Lady Sri Ram College. I have visited some of the colleges in Delhi for NAAC. Okay, all the staff members or PhD holders, and not only that, some of them have visited foreign countries, okay, on international awards, invitations, okay. So you come across, even if you go to Madras Christian College, you come across some Fulbrighters. If you go to Loyola College, even in the Department of English, there is a Fulbrighter. So you come across Commonwealth Fellows, you come across Fulbright scholars, you come across Humboldt Fellows. So all are PhD holders, some with international awards. And if you look at their publication profile, it is very impressive, particularly in terms of H index. And you look at their infrastructure. You go to the chemistry lab, you go to Loyola, you look at their tennis court, or you look at the library. Amazing, impressive infrastructure. The linkages, the MOUs that they have, vibrant linkages, vibrant MOUs, not only at the national level, but at the international level. And you look at their administration and governance, decentralized e-governance. So the question is, they have some of the answers. So I have 15 points. So this slide has talked about 5. Now you look at this slide, it talks about another 5 points. You look at the curriculum, criterion 1. The curriculum is robust. And what do I mean by robust? The curriculum injects or infuses students with critical thinking, scientific temper, entrepreneurial skills. Normally we talk of the graduate attributes. Okay, so the curriculum is good in the sense it is able to equip the students with all these graduate attributes. And what about the teaching methodology? The teaching methodology is blended in the sense like online and offline, and many students, they enroll for MOOCs and NPTELs. Okay, so and then what about internship and placement? Very good in terms of internship and placement. And what is interesting is, where do they go for internship? They don't go to another autonomous college. They don't go to another constituent college. They go to premier institutions like IIT, NIT, IISc, or even this Baba Atomic Center. So in terms of internship and placement, they are doing very well. And holistic education, not just intellectual education. And this point was highlighted by Reverend Dr. Arakesami Xavier. He talked about the education that is imparted at St. Joseph's College. It is not just intellectual, it is not just cerebral, but it takes care of all the faculties and all domains. It is an integrated or a holistic education and a value-based education. And you look at the students, you ask them, how many students have cleared NET? How many students have cleared GATE? How many students are Inspire Fellows? How many students have passed JRF? So the number is very high, okay? And they are very strong in terms of extension and research. I was personally involved with St. Xavier's College, Palimkote. They have a community outreach program called the STAND. It is doing exceedingly well. And St. Joseph's, when I was a student at St. Joseph's, that was the time Father J. Sudasan initiated the program called the Shepherd, and he used to discuss a lot with me. So they are outstanding for their extension activities. And you go to St. Teresa's College, Ernakulam, and you look at their extension activity, amazing and outstanding. So they are very good. They are very strong in terms of social commitment and social outreach activities. And they constantly innovate. They have a strong alumni presence. They promote student leadership. Of course, I have located 15 points. I have identified 15 points. I am sure you will be able to identify more. So the point is, we are talking of benchmarking, and in the same breath, we are talking of best practices. So therefore, we need to ask ourselves, these are the best institutions. They have got A+, and some of them have got A++. So what is it that I can learn from these institutions in terms of criterion 1? What can I learn? In terms of criterion 2, what can I learn? So I have listed some of the best practices of these institutions. Maybe you can emulate, you can adapt some of these best practices, or maybe I have left out some of the best practices that these institutions have or possess. So if you are able to identify some of the other best practices, it is up to you to emulate them or adapt. So ladies and gentlemen, I have completed 3 units of my presentation. Let me go to the last part of my presentation. Okay, now what benchmarks can you set for yourself? Okay, I repeat the question. Okay, you are from this particular college, from this particular university. Okay, so you need to ask yourself, maybe you are the principal, or you are the director of the IQAC, or maybe you are the dean of research, or maybe you are the head of a department. So you ask ourselves, for my own department, for my own school or faculty, or for my own institution, what benchmarks can I set? Okay, so I have given you 20 suggestions. Okay, so maybe all the 20 may not be applicable to your own institutions or your own department. I'm sure most of these would be applicable, and these would be the takeaways from my presentation. Or maybe you can come up with your own set of benchmarks. So ultimately, what you have to do is, after listening to me and after undergoing this 5-day FTP, you should get back to your institution and you should have set some benchmarks, and the benchmarks to be reached or to be fulfilled or to be realized within a particular time frame. Okay, so I have 4 slides. In each slide, I talk about 5 goals, 5 benchmarks, 5 targets. So in this slide, what are the 5 benchmarks? Okay, you need to tell yourself that in the next cycle of NAAC cycle of assessment and accreditation, I would get a better grade. We would strive for a better grade. If you got B, it should be B+. If you got B+, it should be plus plus. Or if you have got B++ and you're on the threshold of getting A, you should aim for A. And if you have got A+, which means you have done well, but you should not be satisfied, you should not be complacent, you should try for A++. So this should be your first target. Now your second target, your second benchmark would be, now in the NARF, what was your rank? Okay, so next year, maybe I'll push the institution up by, let us say, 5 points or 10 points or 20 points. And the third one, now when I go as an NAAC assessor, particularly when I go as the chairman, this is what I find. I found a lot of differences between universities and colleges. Of course, universities are different and colleges are different, and it is not fair to compare the two. But what I find is, particularly when you go to universities, you find more than humanities in the science departments, you find a lot of teachers with international awards and international fellowships. But when you go to a college, you rarely come across a Fulbrighter or a Commonwealth Fellow or an Indo-Shastri Fellow or an Erasmus Mundus Fellow or a Humboldt Scholar. So in other words, in colleges, it is difficult to come across a staff member who has been awarded an international award or an international fellowship. So for the principal or for the secretary, this should be a benchmark in the next 5 years. Meaning the next cycle of NAAC assessment and accreditation in my institution, there would be at least 2 or 3 teachers with international fellowship. And the same would apply in terms of postdoctoral fellowships. In university, you come across a lot of postdoctoral fellows, particularly in sciences, of course, also in humanities, but more in sciences. In colleges, I think very, very rare. I think in most of the colleges that I had visited, particularly as chairperson, I hardly came across any teacher with an international fellowship or with a PDF. So you should strive, not every year, because that would be very difficult to attain, but at least before the next cycle. Okay, and the principal can set a benchmark for herself or for himself. Okay, before the next cycle, I would be a part of the NAAC team, or I would be in some UGC committee, or I would be in some DST committee, I would be in some ICSSR committee. In other words, some national recognition for the head of the institution. Okay, so this slide gives 5 targets, 5 benchmarks. Please go to the next one. Now, in many colleges, particularly those who are going for the first cycle or for the second cycle, you come across teachers who have not completed the PhDs. So the principal and the IQAC coordinator should take a resolve before the next cycle. Permanent staff, they are PhD holders, and every full-time teacher to take up at least 1 research project during the cycle. And I would insist, particularly from the humanities. Sciences, anyway, they have research projects, at least if not major, at least minor. But humanities, I think not many teachers have research projects. So the head of the department or the dean should ensure that at least once in a cycle, not every year, once in 5 years, the teacher should have bagged a research project, and every department organized at least 1 proper international conference during the 5-year period. It is not easy to organize an international conference every year. I would like to add this adjective, proper. What do I mean by proper? It is a proper international conference, not that you get hold of some tourists visiting your place and then with their presence you organize an international conference. It should be a proper international conference. And I'm the Dean of the Faculty of English and Foreign Languages at Gandhigram University, and this is what I tell at the beginning of every academic year. This is what I tell my young teachers. Okay, so during this academic year, 2021, okay, you please ensure that you make at least 1 paper presentation in a good seminar and you convert it into a publication, not into a predatory journal paying money, but in a peer-reviewed journal, possibly a care journal. And every year, at least one student program in every department. So I have already given you 10 benchmarks. So 5 more benchmarks in this slide to get one of the top 3 ranks in athletics and sports. Every year, the university, the parent university or the affiliating university organizes sports competitions at the university level and also cultural competitions at the university level. So where does your institution stand? Do they come first? Do they come second? Do they come third? Or they do not participate? Okay, so ensure this. And third point, ensure that at least 4 to 5 students, the number could be more, I'm being conservative. So ensure that at least 4 or 5 students pass set or net every year in every department. And also ensure that every year, each department produces 1 or 2 PhD candidates, and every department to undertake discipline-specific extension programs. The English department to teach spoken English to rural students. Mathematics department to teach them basic mathematics to some slum children. Okay, so this is what I mean discipline-specific. And every year, each department to launch a new certificate course, because in the first criterion and the curricular aspects, they talk of flexibility, they talk of innovation. Okay, so every year to launch new certificate course. It could be for 30 semester, 30 hours per semester, or in universities, we talk in terms of credits. It could be a 2-credit certificate course. College should ensure that every year at least 2 or 3 go abroad for international paper presentation in seminars and workshops, and every individual to ensure that he or she is invited by at least one institution for a lecture or for a workshop yearly. If no institution invites you, then you have to introspect and ask yourself what is lacking in you that no institution, no college or no university has invited you. The principal and the head to ensure that in every cycle of syllabus revision, and I'm sure you revise your curriculum every 2 years or every 3 years, there is a minimum of 20% changes. You can have more, but at least a minimum of 20. And for the principal, when you talk of student diversity, to ensure that every year at least 25 students from other states, preferably from the neighboring states, join the institution. So dear friends, I have given 20 benchmarks, and if you are able to achieve all these, or if you are able to achieve most of these, I am sure your NAAC assessment and accreditation ranking and your NARF ranking also would go up certainly by a few notches. I assure you of this. Now, my last 2 slides. Now, in this particular slide, I would like to talk about the role of the IQAC in benchmarking. Now, the IQAC, the NAAC mandates that after the first cycle of assessment and accreditation, every institution, whether it is an autonomous college or an affiliating college or a constituent college or a university, should have an IQAC, and NAAC also mandates that the IQAC should be functional. I am not very happy with the word functional. Instead, I would use the word vibrant or active or proactive. So we have been talking about benchmarking now for the last 55 minutes. I will take 3 more minutes and then wind up. Now, the IPPAA plays a key role in terms of benchmarking. Now, in my second slide, I talked about internal benchmarking and I talked about external benchmarking as well. Now, internally, the IQAC should find out which is the best department in that particular institution and what are their best practices, because I made it very clear the best practices have led to better performance, and a better performance has resulted in recognition, awards, grades, and points. So the IQAC, number 1, should identify the best department or the best departments, 2 or 3, and should also identify the best practices that have enabled these departments to perform very well, and that should be set as a benchmark for the other institutions to follow, not blindly, not literally, with adaptation. Okay, so that is the second point. IQAC to set benchmarkings, especially for the college and for individual departments. And it is also the role of the IQAC to organize academic and administrative audit. You need not do it every year. Of course, you can do it every year, but at least once in 2 years, you organize a proper academic and administrative audit with external members, preferably NAAC assessors, to see if targets have been achieved, and if targets have not been achieved, what steps should be taken to fill in the gaps. So therefore, IQAC has a major role, as a crucial role to play when it comes to benchmarking. Now, this is my last slide. Last one, my panel. I have been talking of benchmarking, and I have been, it helps you to do better, it helps you to perform better, it enables you to get a higher score in NAAC and also NARF. Maybe some of you might be wondering, there are also a few limitations as far as benchmarkings are concerned. So very briefly, I would like to talk of 3 limitations of benchmarking. Number 1, now benchmarking may invite or has invited in many institutions unwanted comparisons. Okay, now one institution cannot blindly follow the best practices of another institution. So I'll give you an example. 3 or 4 months back, I was at Loyola College because they are going in for the 4th cycle of NAAC assessment and accreditation. So they had a mock visit or a rehearsal. Now, very interesting evenings when all the clubs made the presentation. So there was one particular club, they called themselves Friends of Police. And every evening, I repeat, every evening, at least 100 students, they go and help the police in maintaining traffic. Now, this is a good practice. Okay? Now, a rural institution cannot blindly follow this practice. This is okay for a city, particularly where the traffic is heavy and where you have a rapport with the police. Now, a rural institution or a semi-urban institution, particularly places where the traffic is not very heavy, they cannot and they should not blindly follow this practice. So, which means the first limitation of benchmarking is unwanted comparisons. Okay, some of the best practices cannot be replicated because I would use 2 words. Best practices are contingent and contextualized. You cannot lift it out of a context. So I am from a rural university and we have some very good practices in this connection under this umbrella. But a city institution cannot blindly adopt these practices. Okay, so that is my first one. Second, the whole notion of excellence itself is debatable. What do you mean by excellence? Now, the dictionary will give you one set of meaning, but then in pragmatic terms, excellent means different things to different people. In fact, I have written an article on this in University News. I'll give you 2 examples. I think exactly 5 years ago, I was at the Indian Institute of Science and I was at the Department of Inorganic Chemistry. And I was talking to the chairman of the Department of Inorganic Chemistry at Indian Institute of Science. We were talking about a lot of things because I know that particular professor. I worked with him earlier on some other assignment. So we were talking about excellence and he made a statement like this. He says, for us, publishing journals would mean you publish a paper either in Nature, which is British, or in Science, which is American. I mean, this is the dream for them, okay? So for them, the benchmark would be you get your paper published in Nature or Science. This is the meaning of excellence for him. And he is the chairman of the Department of Inorganic Chemistry at IISc. Now, I was on a NAAC visit to one of the rural colleges in Assam. From Guwahati. It was a 2.5 drive along Brahmaputra, and that was a minority institution. And when we were interacting with the principal, we were talking about excellence and grades. And at one point, he made it very clear for him, for that principal of that rural institution in a remote corner of Assam, 2.5 kilometers, 2.5 hour drive from Guwahati. He made it very clear, if 50% of the students complete their education to be excellence for me. So which means for an IASC professor, what is excellence? And for the principal of a remote institution, what is excellence? So how do we interpret the meaning of excellence? Okay, so we need to look into this. And the last one, more than reaching the top, retaining that position is difficult and stressful. Now, St. Joseph's has got A++. Lady Sri Ram has got the second rank. St. Teresa's College has got more than 3.6. Now, for them, it is difficult and stressful, not impossible, to retain this position. So, dear friends, I have concluded, and this is my last slide. Benchmarking is a continuous process and activity. For every time the bar is raised, there are better models for emulation, and I would like to give 3 examples. Now, I am a sports person and I'm very fond of football and tennis. Now in tennis, the benchmark would be Roger Federer because he has got 20 Grand Slams. Nadal with 19 and Djokovic with 17. Now, if Nadal catches up with Federer and even surpasses, so that would be a new benchmark. Okay. Or if you take athletics, Usain Bolt holds the world record for 100 meters dash, and he has done it in 9.58 seconds. If somebody can do it in 9.57 or 56, so that would be a new benchmark. In other words, the benchmark is not something constant. Okay, why? Every time the bar is raised, there are better models for emulation. So right now, the best model for emulation is IIT Madras because they are the best institution in the overall category, and Miranda House is the best college in the institution. But in the next NARF, if some other institution gets that rank, then that would become the better model for emulation. So dear friends, every time the bar is raised, our vision, our target, our benchmarks also should be raised. Why? Because benchmarking is a race for perfection. Thank you very much. If there are some questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Thank you, sir,
I
for
leave it
your
to the organizers now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your informative session. So the participants would like to ask a few questions to you, sir. Shall we proceed with the interaction?
Oh yes, please.
Dear participants, if you have any questions, you can use the raise hand option, and we will unmute your microphone. Mr. Anthony Raj, you can ask a question now.
Yeah. Hello, good morning to everyone. This is Dr. Anthony Raj, Department of Physics in Joseph College, Tripoli. Good morning, Father.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Anthony Raj, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. So, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Father. Good morning, Speaker. I have a small question about what is actually benchmarking with regards to the NARF ranking. So, if I see the NARF ranking in all criteria, Miranda has got in 2 criteria it has got less than 40. Only thing is actually their graduate outcome is more. They got more than 80 something, and other criteria. Even the perception is not very much good for Miranda House. But only thing is the 1st criteria and the 4th criteria and the 3rd criteria, they have got much more gradings, so that they came up with 1st ranking. But don't you think that actually in some of the criteria they are almost less? For example, if I take research, I think that I'm not very sure, but they are getting less than 30% of the actual results. But when you compare to Loyola, it has got 100% of perception, and some of the colleges like St. Joseph has got that medium in all levels of criteria. And how do you think that? What is your opinion about this one?
Okay, Dr. Anthony Raj, I agree with you. I agree with you partially. I would put it in a different way. Now look at my own institution, Gandhigram Rural University. We have done well in terms of teaching and research. We have also done well in terms of research, but we have done very poorly in terms of perception. Okay, so which means NIRF is on the basis of 5 criteria, NAAC is on the basis of 7 criteria, NIRF is on the basis of 5 criteria, and the ranking is decided cumulative. They take the cumulative total and they decide the ranking. So it is possible that they have done well in 1 or 2 parameters and they have not done well in other parameters. Anyway, the total matters. As I said, most of the South Indian institutions, most of the institutions in Tamil Nadu, we have done well in teaching and research, but we have not done well in public perception. If we can improve the public perception also, I'm sure a lot more institutions, a lot more colleges from Tamil Nadu would be in the top 10. So I agree with you, and I agree with you partially. Anyway, this is how NARF operates, and we do not have any quarrel with the methodology. Thank you.
Dear participants, please do not repeat the questions and please make your questions precise.
Hello.
Yes.
Dr. Brito Rameshna, you can ask a question now.
Yes, Dr. Brito.
Sir, good morning, sir. Your presentation is excellent, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Brito.
My question is, how we can incorporate benchmarks to the learners, those who are from remote places?
Okay, now it is very simple. Now what I would do is, I also teach in a rural institution, I teach in a rural university, and we have some students from the rural areas. Now what we do is, okay, so if it is, in our university, we have only master's programs, so MA, MSc, and MPhil and PhD. So what we do is, what is their performance in the first semester? Okay, let us imagine a student has got 40%, the average in all the papers in the first semester. So the benchmark that we can set for that particular student is, okay, so in the first semester, your average is 40%. Now in the second semester, you should push it at least by 5% or 10% or 11%. So that would be a benchmark. And when we set benchmarks, we should see to it that it is achievable within a given time frame or a time span. So achievable. Okay, for a student who has got 40%, I cannot and I should not tell him or tell her that in the next semester he or she should have 60 or 65%. So that would be unrealistic. Okay, so when we set benchmarks, we should set realistic targets. Okay, so targets which will be realizable and achievable within a given time frame, but at the same time, it should be challenging. For a student who has got 40, I should not say, okay, next semester you try to improve it by 3% or 4% or 5%. That would not be challenging. So it should be challenging, but at the same time, it should not be intimidating. It should be achievable. It should be realizable. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. This is Alok John from Patna Women's College, sir.
Yes, Dr. Alok, how are you?
I'm doing good, sir.
Oh, you've been attending a lot of webinars.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he is from Dr. Alok John is from Patna Women's College, one of the best in the country. The first college in Bihar to achieve the distinction of college with potential for excellence, and I'm familiar with that institution.
Yes, we are humbled, sir, with your introduction to us. Sir, my question is regarding to the private rankings. How do institution undertake that. That recently we had that ranking by the India Today and then a Career 360. The problem is once we file the data with it, there is no verifications done by these bodies. And usually, in certain point of time, there may be chances of skewed results. So how do one institute undertake in order to avoid a negative public perception in terms of these rankings which are governed by various media houses, sir?
Okay, now Dr. Alokjan has made two observations. Number one, the results are a little bit skewed, so therefore not trustworthy. And second one, how to improve public perception. Okay, now the first one, I agree with you. Now the methodology that is adopted by some of the ranking agencies, the methodology is not very sound. Okay, they don't go into evidence, they do not collect evidence, they do not verify evidence, they do not authenticate evidence. So therefore the methodology that they adopt to rank institutions, I think it is not robust. Now the second one, public perception, that is an interesting point. How to improve the public perception? Now the answer is very simple. Whose job is that? To improve the public perception, it is your job and my job. When I go to a college, let us say in UP or MP or West Bengal or Maharashtra and give a good talk, then they come to know, oh, this man is from Gandhigram University. So public perception grows. So in other words, it is the responsibility of every individual to boost, to enhance the public perception of his or her own institution. Don't think that the principal will take care of it. Don't think the secretary will take care of it. As I gave this example, when I go to another institutions and do well, then they try to collect details. Oh, this man is from Gandhigram. Where is Gandhigram? It is in Tamil Nadu. Okay, then they go to the website and collect more details about my own institution. So you and I, we are responsible for enhancing the public perception of our own institution. And that is a mandate given to us by our own institution, because it is the institution that has given us our identity. So we need to do something to boost the image of the institution. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. I'm Dr. Amrita Chaudhary, IQAC coordinator from Patna Women's College.
Okay, ma'am.
Sir, your address was very, very inspiring, excellent address. Sir, among your to-do list, what should we do for benchmarking? You suggested about students programs. So I just wanted to know, sir, that what kind of students program and at what level?
Okay, fine. Now, this is an interesting question. Professor is from Patna Women's College and she's the IPPAA coordinator, and they have been organizing plenty of webinars. In fact, in one of the webinars, I was one of the resource persons. Now, this is an interesting question. Now, based on my own experience with NAAC now for the last 10 years, when I go on visits, what I find is individual departments, they are doing well in terms of organizing seminars and workshops. But invariably, these seminars and workshops, the target audience is the faculty or the staff members. So when I ask them, did you organize any workshops for students? Did you organize any seminars for students? Now, the fact is, based on the data that I have, based on my 10 years of association with NAAC, now very few institutions organize seminars for the students. So what I would suggest is, okay, the Department of Chemistry, at least once in 2 years, once in 3 years, you organize a seminar where the target audience would be exclusively students from all the neighboring institutions. Okay, so this is what I mean by organizing programs, seminars, and workshops exclusively for students. Thank you. We can also organize camps like Inspire camps. Now the DST Inspire, they have this facility. They send some scientists. If you take the initiative to organize a DST Inspire camp, Inspire would send some of its top scientists so that they can motivate the youngsters to go into basic science. So this also you can do. The funding is taken care of entirely by DST Inspire.
Sir?
Yes.
The IQAC of St. Joseph's College thanks you for your interactive session and for answering the questions. And thank you for your informative session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rose. I would like to thank the Secretary, Dr. Peter Xavier, the Principal, Dr. M. Arokizami Xavier, of course, you, the IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Rose Menis, the Assistant Coordinator, Dr. Kurshi, and Dr. S. Alfred Cecil Raj, who was the former IQAC Coordinator. So thank you for this opportunity, and in particular, I thank all those who raised the questions and initiated a discussion. And I'm sure you will be setting benchmarks not only for your own departments and for your institutions, but also for yourself academically. So thank you, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, we'll be moving on to the third session on role of IQAS policies and ICT in RAF by Dr. S. Alfred Cecil Raj. Dr. S. Alfred Cecil Raj, Controller of Examinations, St. Joseph's College, has served at St. Joseph's College in various administrative capacities. He has offered consultancy services to 17 higher educational institutions regarding RAF for data validation and support. He has been the external peer team member to review the autonomous status of colleges and has guided the Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology, Trivandrum, in the preparation of self-study report for NAAC. He was involved in pre-NAAC academic audit of 5 colleges and academic audit of a few colleges. He was the external expert for IQAC and NAAC preparation of St. Mary's College, Thoothukudi. He has acted as external peer team member and performed audits for 11 institutions. He has published 53 research articles in refereed journals and has received extramural funded projects worth rupees 21,68,000. His core competencies include ICT enabled teaching, research, manpower planning, and animation. Dr. Cecil Raj is the accreditation ambassador of the UGC scheme of Paramarsh, and under his guidance, St. Joseph's College is guiding 6 mentee institutions that aspire for NAAC accreditation. Under his dynamic deanship of IQAC, St. Joseph's received the coveted A++ with a CGPA of 3.58, the first institution ever to receive A++ in cycle 4 of NAAC accreditation. We welcome you, sir.
Sir, please unmute your mic, sir.
A very good morning to one and all gathered in this online learning platform through St. Joseph's College, Trichy. Dear learned friends, this session is neither a pep talk nor talk related to specific answers to different criteria and metrics. Rather, it is a crucial dimension of learning the intricacies of the functioning of IQAC. It is like a concept paper on IQAS and policies, which should be learned in letter and spirit and also to practice in your institution. It is a set of hypotheses where one can accept it or reject it It is expected by the external agency which awards a certificate. Hence, I begin with a caution and proceed to express my understanding which I have learned in my institution. The agenda is fourfold, namely role of higher education institution, IQAS, policies, and the use of technology. Education is liberating, empowering, and transformative experience. Individuals and societies service and thrive because of effective education and training. Higher education contributes not only to social mobility of people, but it also impacts social, scientific, industrial, and cultural progress of a society today. India has third largest educational system in the world. 12th five-year plan stresses 3 pillars for a quantum jump in higher education. They are access and expansion, equity and inclusion, and quality and excellence. We've performed reasonably well in the first 2 pillars, whereas the third pillar is below due to high quantity and low quality higher education system often has devastating consequences for individuals, organizations, and societies. Quality has always been a serious concern for the education industry. In early 1990s, policy makers and academic administrators raised the issue of quality in higher education. There were a host of reasons behind it. First, lawmakers questioned the accountability of higher education institutions in achieving the stated goals. They wanted to know whether the money of taxpayers was being utilized in the right purpose or not. Secondly, the educational administrators felt there is responsibility to enhance the quality standards in their various academic offerings with a new view to respond to the expectations of various stakeholders. Thirdly, parents and students who paid for their education wanted value for money. Lastly, education was treated as a service by various agencies. People wanted educational services like any other service to meet the standards set and to satisfy the needs of students. Further, higher educations were operating and competing in parameters on which they could compare themselves and transact one another. The conceptualization vary from value for money to excellence in performance. The 2 basic definitions of quality that are highly pertinent in the context of higher education are the conformance to specifications and the fitness for the purpose. This conceptualization of quality focuses on the requirements of external and regulatory agencies, and the second stresses the ability of the higher education to fulfill its mission. The quality of an educational institution would be reflected in the achievement of knowledge, skills, and attitudes of students. This conceptualization of quality entails using specific standards preferred by the mission of the institution. And higher education institution would reasonably like to ensure quality in various services. However, it is not an easy task. High intangibility of knowledge, variability in expertise and experience of faculty, individualistic nature of delivery and student assessment, and individual differences in the competence, commitment, and collaborative spirit of the students make the quality service delivery a daunting task. As a result, the higher education institution develops a systematic and holistic approach for educational service, lays down policies and procedures for service delivery, evolves appropriate roles, and creates a climate to ensure that its different programs are able to achieve program objectives and meet standards set effectively and efficiently. Further, it develops various ways to review and monitor successful implementation of measures and outcomes and strives to continuously improve them. These measures constitute quality assurance mechanisms undertaken by a higher education institute. Quest for excellence and learner satisfaction represents an historic commitment and foundation of important higher education milestones relating to quality and accountability. Quality management aims to develop a quality culture where quality is seen as everyone's responsibility. The three spheres of quality management activities are planning, controlling, and ensuring. So this slide tells about the various terms used for defining the quality, like exceptional, perfection, fitness for the purpose, value for money, and transformation. Similarly, the quality culture is defined in terms of certain themes where staff motivation and engagement, the culture and research and evaluation, transparency in the information exchange and knowledge of quality process, leadership, and student-centric. The establishment of an internal quality assurance system in a higher education institution is often regarded as the most critical element in creating sustainable framework for maintaining quality. Whereas the external evaluation and publishable outcomes mainly respond to accountability issues. The need for internal quality enhancement demands the establishment of continuous and sustainable quality improvement schemes at the institutional level and at the level of academic disciplines. On top of encouraging institutional changes, the creation of institution-wide quality management system could be regarded as a precursor to what are nationally constructed as external quality assurance mechanisms like accreditation and quality audits. So it is a twofold, where the first one is internal quality assurance system, which promises to fulfill the requirements of external quality assurance system to get an accreditation. If you look at internal quality assurance system, it talks about the governance, curriculum content design and review, student entry qualifications, admission procedures, their progress and achievements, physical facilities, teaching learning assessment, student support services, staff and facilities, research and extension, process management, and continuous improvement. So all these terminologies, you would have seen it in the manual of RAF, but how an institution has established and take it forward to fulfill these requirements is referred to be your IQAS. Whereas external quality assurance system demands and identifies what is the strength and weakness of the practices followed in the institution, and they want to understand the working plan and how to improve their mistakes. They would like to suggest, and the institution has to establish and changes and corrective measures are to be taken to improve the internal quality assurance system. Therefore, it is a shared practice between the external quality assurance system with an internal quality assurance system creates an accreditation, which is a recognition awarded to an institution. Therefore, it is a gain. It is a certified agency, provides a certificate, creating a gain, created gain for the institution. So it is a National Quality Assurance Accreditation Council provides an enhancement of the quality to be present in the institution. So the basics in quality assurance are quality culture, quality assurance, and quality control. The terminologies are different for different purposes because the higher education institutions are often prescribed to work on the industrial's nomenclature. Therefore, the terminologies will vary from definition to definitions, but one should ensure that they are implemented in the institutions. There must be a system to set the common definitions. Therefore, a quality and quality culture is to be set by IQAS, whereas quality assurance and quality control is done by external quality assurance agency. So it is a process, it is a four-way process where there will be a benchmark, either national or international benchmark in prescribing the quality, and it should lead to the need of the stakeholders. It should fulfill, the higher education institution should fulfill the needs of the stakeholders with certain quality assurance principles like strategic principles, systematic principle, and functional principles leading to result. So therefore, the strategic quality assurance are starting from vision, mission, and culture, governance, leadership management, management policies, educational policies, service policies, HRM, financial and physical resources management, and external relation networks. So these terminologies are often coming under different criteria, especially in criterion 6, where you find how the institution is taking care of all the requirements of the internal quality assurance system. The systematic principle is quality assurance principle is based on the internal quality assurance cell. So how the system is created inside, how it fulfills the external requirement through processes, assessment, and also how it is being disseminating the informations. Thereby the institution's quality has been enhanced with the help of internal quality assurance cell, which functions, the institution functions on 3 grounds: education purpose, research purpose, and service purposes. Therefore, functional point of view, the institution's students' admission to award of degree, curriculum design and review, teaching learning procedures, assessment, and student support and services are educational purposes. And how that has been in research becomes an important part of the curriculum based on the research management policies, IPR, and research collaborations and partnership. And not only limiting ourselves in the area of the institution, we must extend our support to the community by engaging the neighborhoods. Therefore, when strategic, systematic, and functional quality assurance are established in an institution, there results the quality of the college in terms of educational purpose, research purpose, and service purpose with the help of financial background of the institution. Thus, the process requires the understanding of the SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges prevailing in the institution. Therefore, there must be a policy and procedure to enhance the quality or ensuring the quality with an approval and monitoring process through the bodies, governing bodies, and assessment and students' quality assurance through proper feedback mechanisms, and supporting the students with the different possible methods. And also, not only limiting with that, it must be disseminated through the ICT, the website of the institution. Therefore, when you consider the external quality assurance system, they will verify how the internal quality assurance procedures are fulfilling the requirement of the quality assurance agencies based on certain criteria, and also based on the reports and follow-up activities with the peer reviews. So quality assessment has got fourfold explanation based on evaluation, accreditation, auditing, and benchmarking. So benchmark, the institution has to fix, and it is not a universal system. One has to fix for every year. An incremental process should be created by the IQAC. Thereby, they will fulfill the IQAS of the institution. And it must have an auditing process procedure either by internal way or an external way to understand the swag of the institution. And the accreditation is based on the external agencies with the quality and quantity based. The success result tells us the evaluation procedure. So the assessment has got a fourfold procedure. So the measurement could be a peer review measurement, either by internal members who are confident about the functioning of the institution thoroughly. They can review the process, as well as an external member can also take part in this activity to measure the improvement, incremental improvement in the institute. The second one is a standard. The standards have to be on a par with the expectations of the external agency. And validation, it is independent of review of a self-assessment process itself will validate the functioning of IQAS, namely the functioning of internal quality assurance cell of the institute, leading to certification. So certification is the verification and validation of an achievement based on the standards and the status expected by the institute. Therefore, the methodology and tools are very simple. We must have a standard, a kind of description that describes how organization and people should develop and manage the institute in terms of material, services, products, and processes. And that the institution should have a threshold to showcase their performance, or they have entered into the standard of excellence with the guiding principles. The tool for that is an indicator, a quantitative and qualitative indicators that will give the information on the organization's performance as far as the quality of its requirements are concerned, and make the institution to improve its performance. The methodology is very simple. Deming's PDCA cycle: plan, do, check, and act principle. For every activity, the IQAC of the institution should plan thoroughly with a well ahead of time, and it should inform the departments and units to carry out the required task which is formulated by IQAC and communicated to the IQAC, so that it will forward it to the organization for its activity thoroughly. Therefore, a quality culture can be set in terms of trust between the employer and employee. Therefore, both of them must come together and participate with the proper communication. Therefore, on one side, we need to convince the individual partnership. The other one is a collective partnership. They should go hand in hand with the quality of the management, expected quality of the management. Thereby, it becomes a business, like a business and consumer. Therefore, in this process, developmental phases, quality becomes a variable, and it starts with a systematic approach, and it becomes a guaranteed professional and continuously systematically improved with innovation, and hence one can strive towards excellence. So IQAC starts from scratch, and it must be a liaison officer between various stakeholders, starting from parents, learners, teachers, administrators. So the role of IQAC is enormous and cumbersome. One has to take it very carefully and move forward for every step, in every step. So the major function starts from admission of students to award of degree, and recruitment of faculty members and their requirements for the knowledge transfer, communicating to the outside world through workshops and seminars, and proper report writing, and almost they become the liaison officer between employer, employees, student and parents, and universities and agencies. So the important issue the IQAC coordinators will have, or they become the responsibilities of the IQAC coordinators, the organization of an internal quality network. It varies from institution to institution, enhancing communication flow between departments and units, developing a 3-step learning process, learn, apply, and disseminate, recognizing the specific skills in the institution of the individual and students, fostering innovative ideas in order to solve problems, measuring improvements in the quality actions, ensuring quality, analyzing the reports provided yearly by each unit about its activities, auditing the activities in cooperation with the management, and fixing the benchmark and expecting the outcomes for this. To achieve all these responsibilities, the very important concept behind is a communication flow. There should be an excellent flow of communication within the departments and units if these observations are developed. Developing a culture of communication and sharing of information, well-defined communication responsibilities, clear objectives of communication flow, precise listing of sources and receivers of information, practical and ample usage of information technology. If all these responsibilities are taken care of with the proper decision making, we will definitely achieve the basic requirements. Namely, the strong feeling of identity, commitment and responsibility, recognition based on performance criteria, awareness to improve the quality, believe and trust in the strategy with the transparency, regular evaluation of the changes in the institution, clear objectives in strategic planning, spirit of competitions and cooperations at all different levels. Therefore, to achieve all these things for a IQAC or IQAS, time is the solution. One has to take a lot of time to fix the quality and quality assurance procedures by critically analyzing, thinking beyond, learn by reading, realizing with the togetherness, implement, analyze, and learn from the failures. Therefore, believe the managerialness of the organization. Based on the organizational structure only, you can capitalize all these things. Start with inspiring leading. Believe in the democratic power of the people and believe in the democratic empowerment of the people. Learn collectively from mistakes and failures. Therefore, quality culture must have a check. What are the checks? The purposes, reason behind, method of doing it, optimizing to get the highest efficiency and effect. As it is stated here, you should not value what you measure, but you should measure what you value. In a nutshell, quality assurance is crucial in higher education based on premises that the processes and procedures of quality have to clearly chalked out. The effectiveness of different processes and processes should be vetted and measured. Outcomes should be assessed and shared with the different stakeholders. For internal quality assurance, the lessons one should learn to include clarity in institutional mission statement, need of quality units within the institution, monitoring through data collection, analysis and benchmark, transparencies in the processes, incentive measures, cost of quality procedure. So quality assurance to be successful, it has to be developed as a culture which is self-sustaining, self-renewing and self-rewarding. In other words, people's commitment to quality has to be of highest standard. Coming to the roles and policies in RAF, besides quality practices include various policies and procedures. The policies assist in higher education in designing, delivering and streamlining different activities. Any process has to be planned, implemented, checked whether it is performing as per the plan or not, and finally corrective action has to be taken. The consistency and the quality of process is brought about by carefully documenting it and then rigorously following it. As the maxim goes, write what you plan to do, then do what you have written. In higher education system, policies and procedures therefore require careful documentation and meticulous implementations. Notably, they should be reviewed and revised on a periodic basis. Policy and strategies of higher education starts with vision and mission values as well as goals and objectives. Institutional policies and strategies are defined in collaboration with all stakeholders and through engagement with relevant professional regulatory bodies and political authorities. It drives structural involvement with the world of work and wider society. The work environment is fully supportive of research and innovation and rewards these wherever they emerge in the institution. The objectives and outcomes of the higher educational policies are manifold. On teaching and learning and research and innovations have a clear focus upon the needs and future development of work and wider society. Similarly, the development of skills and competencies that enhance the employability and societal contributions and personal development of graduates. Thirdly, the structural and systematic synergy with the world of work is realized in outcomes impacting on teaching and research staff as well as in the staff and organizational development. Institutions develop and maintain structural community partnership. The educational policies and guidelines address the purpose and objectives of education, the methods to achieve them, and the tools for measuring their effectiveness. They may include, but not limited to, educational policy philosophy, academic freedom, code of ethics, student intake, class size, teaching and learning approach, student assessment, credit system, graduation requirements. Thus, the policies may be questioned with the following questions. How the educational policies are aligned to the vision and mission of the institution. How they are formulated and reviewed. Who were involved. How the educational policies are translated into daily activities and practices. How the educational policies are articulated and communicated to the stakeholders. The second type of policies are research policies. Guidelines and research ethics set the direction and objectives of research, research activities, standards and ethical practices, responsibility and accountability of research unit, and staff involving in research activities within institution. They are the guiding principle for the institution to achieve its research goals and aspirations. It is important that they are aligned to the vision and mission of the institution. The code of ethics for research may include, but not limited to, ethical code conduct for carrying out research, rights and responsibilities of the institution and researchers, rights of experimental subjects and animals, rights and responsibilities of funding agencies, confidentiality and security of research, data, records, results, and conflicts of interest. Therefore, under this policy, one can question what are the institution policies, guidelines, and code of ethics for research. How the research policies, guidelines, ethics are formulated, how stakeholders are involved. How they are communicated, implemented, and evaluated. How they are aligned to the vision and mission of the state institution. Third type of policies are contribution in service policies, where the contribution to society has become an expected role of higher education institutions, as they are often regarded as the key institution in nation building and a catalyst in both social and economic development and transformation. The most explicit mission of higher education institution is the production of knowledge workers and research to the benefit of mankind and society. Contribution to society from staff, students, and alumni may include nation development, economic development, social and cultural development, environmental sustainability, public health care, natural disasters, etc. So under this category, one can question what role does the institution play in the nation building, social economic development? What are the key contributions? How they relate to the mission of the institution? How such contributions are regulated and measured? How such contributions benefit the society and the institutions? So under these policies, the evidences are very visible. It must be seen in handbooks. Governing policies must be available in the college website, and certain regulatory mechanisms are provided by the higher education and service governed by the institution. Therefore, in writing the policy, you can start from the title of the policy till the key indicators need with 11 items. They must indicate to whom this policy is applicable, how it is applicable, why it is applicable, with the history behind it, and when it is documented, and who is the competent authority to approve this policy. This procedure should be followed in preparing different policies and requirements for a given institution. So the institutional policies housed in reaccreditation framework, wherein 7 policy documents must be made available in the college website, and 23 functional policies called regulatory policies, which are expected by NAAC, which centered around the 7 documents which are displayed in the college website. So in this slide, you can understand the different policy documents expected by the NAAC, starting from research facilities, how frequently the policy of research, promotion of research, culture is being tuned and retuned. What is the IT policy covering Wi-Fi, cyber security, budget allocation? Similarly, what is the SOP for different facilities promoted for students and functioning of the institution? What is the procedure and formalities in terms of redressal mechanisms? And what are the functional procedures or administrative setup, appointment rules and regulations? And what is the procedure for mobilizing fund? And also, what is the procedure for institutional social responsibility in creating a green campus? These are the 7 policies expected by NAAC, but the regulatory policies every institution should develop, and it should be a functional policy where the first criterion, in this slide you can see the first criterion, student feedback for design and review of syllabus. Though it is asked under RAF only for curricular design, institutions should plan for the holistic feedback and pool for at different levels to understand the feedback from the stakeholders. And I should vouch that in 2012, colleges got only 1 feedback, but at the end of 2019, IQAC has developed 10 feedback mechanisms which has supported the management, namely the institution, to carry forward their vision and mission very widely and in an acceptable way. With regard to second criterion, ICT enabled tools, how these ICT enabled tools are important, how teaching community can involve themselves in teaching learning processes as well as evaluation process. Therefore, the integration of ICT, reformations, and examination management system and automations should have a policy in the institution to gain score. Coming to the third criterion, how an ecosystem is prevailing in the college for creating innovation and incubations, entrepreneurship and community development. Similarly, the code of ethics for research. What sort of code of ethics is essential for MPhil, PhD, and such things must be known to the stakeholders. Similarly, number of collaborative activities are important to enhance the student exchange and staff exchanges, as well as to create internship feasibility among the students of various disciplines. In order to carry out the collaborative activities, there should be a functional MOUs. So NAAC has not essentially made what is the policy for MOU, but in order to write these questions, you must have the institution must have the well-defined regulatory policies for the institution. This slide tells about the various policies required in fourth criterion, namely physical resources. The first one talks about the ICTs, number of classrooms, seminar halls, how it is being embedded with ICT, LMS, automations in library management system, and also what are the databases the institution has got in terms of ICT. So ICT policy becomes an essential and mandate policy which has to be developed by the institution. In the previous manual, an IT policy procedures were present, but the current RAF asks in a different style with these questions, these matrices. And how many computers are given in order to promote ICT? What is the bandwidth, Wi-Fi facilities, availability of Wi-Fi facilities, the e-content generations? There should be a policy in the institution. This slide talks about the various policies, regulatory policies, one should be aware of it in the criterion 6. The last 3 talks about the policies of the IQAS, so that you can talk about the different case studies asked in the RAF, and also how the assurance, quality initiatives are undertaken by the IQAC of the institute are discussed in the last 3 points. Coming to the first point, how many teachers are provided financial support? There should be a policy in the institution to promote research. When there is a research policy, automatically faculty should be financially supported if there is no financial support from the government side. And similarly, the average number of professional development and administrative policies are asked. Therefore, the in-house development, knowledge transfer and training program should be organized. And also, the faculty members are exposed to outside by attending professional development programs, orientations, induction programs, and etc. Therefore, the management must have a policy of sending the faculty members outside, and also how many should be sent at a time, and that must be visible to the department or faculty members, so that everyone is aware of the number of participants they can participate in different knowledge transfer activities. Coming to the last criterion, the green campus initiatives, not as mentioned in the NAAC manual, any type of green campus initiatives can be cultivated, and also it must be audited properly, and also how the differently abled students, how barrier-free environment is created, and how this institutional social responsibility is vetted with certain policies to students, teachers, administrators, etc. So these policies are definitely take place in shaping this from core value 4, namely promoting the use of technology. When we want to promote a technology, use of technology, the easiest solution is ICT. The college has experienced this promotion very systematically in the last cycle. So it starts from financial resource. So the financial and physical resources are the hardware of higher education institution. Providing adequate, relevant, and up-to-date resources is essential to support the strategic goals of education, research, and service, as well as to provide a conducive and safe environment for teaching, learning, and research. Effective management and monitoring of these resources will ensure that the needs of stakeholders are well catered for, and that the resources are well maintained and effectively utilized. The financial resources of the institution to support its vision, mission, and strategic goals in education, research, services, and established and implemented. Key financial procedures and practices relating to education, research, and services should meet institutional and regulatory requirements. The financial statement and report should be accurate and up to date. Some of the questions one can raise are: how relevant are the financial policies and procedures and practices in meeting the strategic goals of institution? How strategic planning and financial planning are aligned? How budgets are allocated for education, research, and service? Where are the sources of funding for education, research, and service come from? How financial authority is delegated? Who appoints internal and external auditors to carry out financial audit? The second type is regarding the physical facilities and infrastructure, which is tightly catering to the criterion, fourth criterion. How the facilities such as lecture halls, seminar rooms, laboratories, reading rooms, and computer rooms meet the needs of students and staff. How student or laboratory facilities and tools. How the laboratories meet the relevant regulatory requirements. How sufficient are the teaching aids and tools available to students and staff? How facilities and infrastructures are maintained? How up to date and development of upgrading plans? Coming to the very vital IT facilities and infrastructure, such as computers, networks, backups, security, access rights to meet the needs of education, and how it is being implemented. Management and monitoring the IT facilities and infrastructure is in place to ensure that they are adequate, relevant, and up to date. Some of these questions are: how sufficient are the hardware and software available to meet the needs of education and research? What is the policy for replacing and renewing the hardware and software? How the IT facilities and infrastructures are maintained? How to update or the IT developments and upgrading plans? How the Wi-Fi coverage and bandwidth adequate meet the demands of students and staff? How secured are the computer systems and networks? How computers and networks are protected from viruses and hacking? Then the other part is an academic resource, such as library resources, teaching aids, online databases, etc., to meet the needs of education. It is exactly matches with the criterion 4 under library. So one can ask as many questions as possible as it is displayed here. The last one is the environment and health and safety. How many people of special needs is established and implemented? The environment, health, and safety policies and practices should meet the institutional and regulatory requirement. Conducive environment for teaching, learning, as well as promoting well-being of the staff and students are essential. So when you talk about the inclusiveness in terms of technology, it is visible through various sources as it is mentioned here. One is on financial part, the other one is list of equipments and how it is budgeted, how library and learning resources are useful for the student community. So after this session, lunch and siesta, when you go for brewing a cup of coffee in the evening hours, I ask you to think over it with the following questions. What does quality culture mean to you? Does the institution need to have developed a quality culture prior to implementation of a process of quality assurance? Or does the quality assurance system help in development of the culture with institution? What do you think are the challenges in a quality assurance system that will instill quality culture in your institution. In your successful implementation of culture at your institution, in your opinion, what can be done to support the development of quality culture? So our success or technological advancement in educational transactions, orienting the faculty and students of effective usage of ICT, investing hardware to orient the faculty suitably, documenting and data management makes as a significant impact on our NAAC SSR, up-to-date information on the institutional website, then ICT for resource sharing and networking, which will enable the administrative and accountability processes, and also which promotes e-governance platform. The link shown here, it will take you to our college website IQAC page, where the actual quality initiatives undertaken in the last 5 years is displayed. Those who are interested can visit our college website IQAC page. So St. Joseph's College creates a quality professionals with the constitutions entirely determines each citizen to defend it. Thank you.
Hello.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hello.
Thank you for your informative session. Dear participants, you can use the raise hand option if you have any questions into the topic. We will unmute the microphone so you can ask the questions.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, sir, please.
Hello.
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 Yes, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
Yes. My question is that in our education system, we give the importance to the hard skill development, but we do not give the importance of the soft skill development, like, for example, development of personality, development of leadership quality, development of creativity, etc. As a result, our students, suppose that after 100 years of existence, our university cannot produce the Nobel laureate, or we cannot produce the brilliant student who can compete in the international competitions. And our students also after higher education do not understand the human value, social ethics, etc. So in my opinion, that after the 7 criteria of the NAAC, there should be one criteria, the skill for the value-based education, and there should be one compulsory paper in our curriculum aspect, then how the social ethics of human value can be understood by the students. And what is the opinion of the Dr. Alfred in this regard?
So as you mentioned, your question talks about the value system, skill development and all. So in criterion 1, the value system, how the value systems are embedded in your curriculum and what are the social responsibilities a student should have. All these things are listed in criterion 7. And as an autonomous college, every is related to professional ethics, value systems, some strategic procedures, ICT, IPR. These are all values which are introduced in recent past. Therefore, it is up to us to introduce as many courses as possible in our
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I'm Dr. Sridevi, sir. Hello.
Ma'am, please wait, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah.
Participants, kindly wait for another 2 minutes. Hello. Yeah. Yes, sir. So basically.
Hello. Is it audible?
Yes,
Professor,
sir.
who has-
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Participants, please ask questions from resource person. Participants, you can ask questions now.
Hello.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Sir, I'm Dr. Sridevi, calling IQAC coordinator of St. Pius Degree and PG College. I would like to know what is the procedure you take up for documentation. Can you please highlight the procedure you use?
The procedure is based on the behavior of the faculty members as well as the departmental practice, ma'am. Therefore, in every academic year beginning, set of procedures we formulated from the beginning, and later it has been practiced throughout the year. So all these practices are based on sending the information only through online in the soft copy pattern.
Department wise, sir, every month like that?
Not month wise. We have a procedure called annual academic audit. During that time, they will provide all the details, and other details will come from various sources, and it will be present in the college website also, so that it is easy for the IQAC to pull the data, and also at the end of an academic year, we conduct our annual academic audit. During that time, every department and subunits, they will provide the information both in soft copy as well as in hard copy form.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Any other questions? Participants, please ask questions. Participants, please unmute your mic and ask questions.
So very good afternoon, sir. This is Professor Tamba Meshak from Prithvisha Engineering College, Chennai.
Good afternoon, sir.
So I would like to understand whether all the documents nowadays we are going again with the digitization techniques. Does
Yes,
it
sir.
request every document again to be maintained as a paper document, hard copy?
No, not necessary, but if you have proper procedure for pooling the data digitally, it's well and good. You can keep all the documents in soft copy mode, as a soft copy. But for which one has to work as a metadata, especially you have to classify them, categorize them, put them in order. That will be a tedious task. And engineering colleges can do it. Automation is possible because number of computer science students and faculty will be there. Small modules every student as well as faculty write. Then you can pull all the data, year-wise, department-wise, etc.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
This is Shobana, IQAC co-coordinator from PSG College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore.
Welcome, ma'am. Yes.
Sir, while preparing the evaluative report for the NAAC submission, actually we are a blend of aided and self-financing courses. So, how can we prepare the eval? Because there are all the same courses being offered in the self-financing stream also. Whatever we have, for example, psychology, we have both an aided as well as self-finance stream. So, how to prepare the evaluative report in such case? Thank you, sir.
So, yes, ma'am. The answer is very simple, ma'am.
Yes.
It is for better administrative purpose. The institution has classified into aided and unaided stream, and you are running in the morning hours and evening hours. But as far as NAAC is concerned, it is only a single department, psychology department. That's all. Therefore, it is considered to be a single department.
Thank you, sir. And what about, sir, one more question. The commerce, we are offering different streams like commerce with professional accounting, commerce with computer applications, and so on. So shall we all club all the BCom together or keep it separately in the evaluative department?
No, it is based on the university nomenclature you have to classify. Because commerce, BCom, finance, it is a separate program. Something else means it is another program. So combining them is not a correct one, according to me.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Can I step in? This is hello. Yeah, this is Dr. Odetta from Xavier Board.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, just to update, this is not a thing, but just let you know that our NAAC requires about 15 policy documents. The new RAF, which was put out in February 2020, there are about 15 policy documents that the institution is supposed to have, which is asked in the RAF. And if anybody wants, I have the list of them. I can share it with them if they would write to xavierboard@gmail.com, just to update the college on this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sir?
Yes.
So I'm Dr. Alex Ramani. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
See, the academic audit, annual academic audit of our college is one of the IQAS.
Yes.
Could you highlight a little more so that others will get to know how to consolidate the documents and other academic details? So please highlight something more about the annual academic audit.
So
for enlightening the other participants.
So the annual academic audit, what we are practicing is based on our own culture, our own understanding, for our own understanding. But NAAC has already formulated certain procedures called administrative and academic and administrative audit, which has got its own structure, and clearly tells everyone to follow their own pattern according to the need and requirement of the institution. Similarly, Gujarat government has got one procedure called audit, similar administrative and academic audit, which is similar to the NAAC procedure. So similarly, various governments, they have formulated their own policies. So for running this audit is completely an institutional procedure, institutional practice. Therefore, I think it is yet another session required for explaining how to audit and how to those things. So it is institution-based auditing procedures. If they want to follow some standard procedure, they can refer Gujarat government policies. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for clarifying the doubts.
Good afternoon, sir.
Dear part.
Yes, ma'am. Last question.
Okay.
Yes,
Good
ma'am.
afternoon, sir. I'm Dr. Kathapani Bandyopadhyay from West Bengal, speaking from West Bengal, Shubhanrekha Mahavidyalaya. I'm the IQAC coordinator of this college. My question to you, sir. My college is located at a very remote, rural and tribal part of Bengal. We love a shortage. What is the problem that we have? We have a very shortage of faculties, and thus sometimes it becomes very difficult for us to go for documentation. So, sir, could you suggest some easy method that, since we have only 15 full-time teachers in our college, so, sir, could you suggest few methods, easy methods, that how could we document so many, because in a NAAC we require a lot of informations and data. So could you please highlight on this fact?
It is really a tough task for IQAC to collect data first. As you said, preparing document itself is a hectic task, and with a limited number of faculty and too young faculty, they are unable to understand the intricacies of keeping the documents first, ma'am. So you have to cultivate how to maintain the document for every activity. Suppose you are doing some boards of studies, how to write the minutes of the meeting. That itself is a document required for criterion 1. Similarly, the appointment orders and strength particulars, all those things may be available in the institution office itself, college office itself. If it is digitalized, it will be available in the college website and ERP. Therefore, if it is not available, the department has to take it up as an initiative of the department itself. So it is essential nowadays to keep track of everybody, every activity. Therefore, it is a department, head of the department, not only the head of the department's requirement, but he has to maintain the record of each and everything. And it would be always advisable to prepare it in digitally and collect it, collect the evidences in a hard copy format. And it is a procedure to be understood in the institutional functioning. I can say only these points, how to document it. Namely, preparing the minutes is one type of document. The other one is each and every activity carried out by the institution should be available in the department as well as in the office of IQAC. That's all I can say, ma'am. Is it okay, ma'am? Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. It's
Welcome,
clear,
welcome.
sir. Yes.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, sir, for the clarifications. Of the Faculty Development Program. Thank you for your active participation. We would like to thank Reverend Dr. M. Arokyasamy Xavier SJ, Dr. Joseph Duraraj, and Dr. Alfred Cecil Raj the resource persons of the day. Let's come together tomorrow for more information on the nuances of the assessment and accreditation process of NAAC. Thank you.
Session.